from the School of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering in Georgia Tech. Please welcome MikeFiller.
All right, Mike. We really appreciate you coming with your huge source of energy. But, you know, we were going to save your ability for the end as a big finish. Sorry. Mike is able to control electromagnetic waves with his head.
That big.
Is it hair gel? Is it hair gel? What is in your head? That's the first thing I have to ask.
Some kind of control component.
Is it
Support
really
the chemical engineering industry.
Can you fix that?
I'm gonna fix it.
So next year, Science Today is aspiring to actually getting the sound engineer in the budget. So Mike, you're we're happy to have you here. We'll wait till Pete gets back.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
I can't adjust anything.
Mike should talk.
About what?
Talk about your say the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
He's singing the alphabet.
I have a 3.5-year-old son at home, so he's doing that.
Yeah, you can't actually. Is that true, Lucy? If you try to do a sobriety test and you sing it, that's not fair.
You're not allowed to sing it. You gotta say it.
Can you say it back? What if you say it backwards?
Can you say it?
A, B, C, D.
All right.
I've always wondered about the backwards.
C Y X W V U T S R Q P O N M L K J I.
You practice that.
H G M E D.
Practice that.
No, I just did that. So we're ready for our
Well, first let me talk about your background, because this is a science show, ladies and gentlemen, and you did your doctorate degree in what area? And where was that?
When?
Where was it?
Where? Doctorate at Stanford.
Stanford. I would never ask you when. That's an important question in our science, ladies and gentlemen. So never do that. So you're a chemical engineer, and this is a science show. Engineer, science engineer. What are you doing here? Perhaps you explain.
Yeah, so I guess really big picture, science and engineering kind of go through this cycle where scientists try to understand the world, new things, new phenomena. They describe it, try to understand the best they can, and then engineers try and take that understanding and produce products that help people. I guess that would be my hope.
Okay, I like that. I think
And then ultimately, engineers tend to figure out new things as they go, and that feeds back into doing new kinds of science.
So
it
you're
really
saying
goes like
that
this over time.
the science and the applied science of engineering are actually inextricably words mixed together.
Yeah, and I think some people in their careers spend more time on the sciencey side, some people spend more time on the engineering side, but really it is a continuum.
Okay. So, in fact, maybe that makes sense given, science, technology, engineering, and math. Lou's a mathematician. I'm actually an engineer, but the science is integral to all those different things.
Thank you for using the word integral.
If I say Lie algebra groups by the end of it, he'll be like, woohoo! You said the magic word.
So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your work. I know you work with extremely small things. Nanotechnology, as you all know, is technology that you use little Arduino nanos with, right? No, that's not
You're close. Okay. So nanotechnology is the term scientists gave manipulating matter at a really small scale. They needed to give it a name, so they did grants. But ultimately, just as scientists and engineers have gotten better at manipulating matter, we've been able to shrink down the dimensions we can control. There's a really famous quote from Richard Feynman from a long time ago, so the 50s. He kind of really predicted a lot of this in a very famous lecture in the late 50s, 59. And he basically said there's plenty of room at the bottom. He basically said, look, humans are too big, our fingers are too big to manipulate matter when we're talking about nanometers. Right. But we'll get there. There's lots to do. And now, several decades later, we're kind of just to the point where we can think about, where we've learned a lot scientifically, and we can start to think about translating what we've learned into real things that people can model.
So what have we learned that now allows us to manipulate things at the nanoscale level, right? So nano, 10 to the minus 9 meters, about the size of a molecule or so.
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
I think it's just a better control of chemistry, a better control of
physics, maybe?
yeah, all those things.
Okay. Is Math in there too, for Lou? Throw him a bone, something.
Math is always there. You steal the onion until you cry, then you find the math.
Engineering is because it's funny, you get a lot of engineers that don't like to do calculus.
Yeah.
But I remember when I learned calculus, my instructor said calculus is 90% algebra and 10% calculus.
Yeah.
If you're good at algebra, you'll be pretty good at calculus. Engineering is 90% calculus and 10% engineering. So you got to have the calculus.
So,
It's central to describing.
study the math. That's all I'm saying to the young people there. Right.
So, the nanotechnology, I mean, when you're manipulating stuff, I don't know how many people in our audience can really visualize what that looks like.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
what happens in your
little
lab?
tweezers.
little tweezers. So that's exactly what happens. I know it's not all what happens. It's kind of funny. So I had co-op when I was a student. I was an undergrad. I called it Intel, the company that makes a lot of integrated circuits that we all have in our phones and everything. And before I went there, I didn't really know how they made integrated circuits. But this is, you think, oh, they take small little wires and they connect them. That's nowhere close to what happens. It's a completely chemical process. Right? They put down these different layers and they use a technique called lithography to pattern those layers and then remove what they don't need. And everything's chemical. The deposition of the new layer is chemical. The removal is chemical. There's never, or very rarely, ever something that's kind of like a tweezer, like we think about the macroscopic.
Right. So even though electrical engineers will design the chips, a lot of chemical engineers will actually work on these layers to systematically remove these things. So it works out well. So you're right.
And so it's all chemical.
Yeah.
And it's really this ability, that's why I said chemistry, this ability to get molecules to react where you want them to attach where you want them to. Right. Several decades ago, we just weren't good at that.
Right.
We're still not great at it, to be honest, but we're getting better.
And we used to call that microlithography microtechnology. Then we crossed this sort of unit barrier, and now nanotechnology was born. So how is the modern nanotechnology different?
Just that we can do it, more precisely. And ultimately, what does that get you? I think if you think about macroscopic things like your arm, right? Your arm has the function of pulling and pushing. So your arm is designed a certain way to do that.
Right.
And the same thing holds for materials.
Not your arm, though.
Not mine?
No.
No. I've seen you at the gym at Georgia Tech. It's not
but everything in the end is controlling the structure, controlling in terms of nanomaterials, controlling the arrangement of atoms, the shape, those types of things dictate what it's going to do. And my group, for example, works on things like improving the conversion of sunlight energy into electricity.
So photovoltaics.
That's
Solar
one way to do it.
Right.
That's one way to do it. Yeah.
What's a better way to do it?
He's supposed to say that's the best way to do it to get the next grade.
Photosynthesis?
Well, yeah. So there you're
Spoken
going
like
from
a
sunlight.
GMO rocker.
So the knock on solar photovoltaics is you go from sunlight energy into electricity. And electricity is kind of hard to store. Our batteries in our cell phones, they don't last that long. You could do something more akin to photosynthesis where you take sunlight, convert it directly into fuels.
Right.
You put gas in your tank, it stays there.
Right.
You leave your car for months.
Well, you let your daughter drive.
So if you could do that direct conversion to chemicals from sun direct, that would be great.
So can you give an example of this nanoscale manipulation that you or other people are working on now?
Yeah, so for example, one of the problems in collecting sunlight is the fact that there's Roy G. Biv. The solar spectrum is broad band. It has lots of different colors.
You're going to have to explain Roy G. Biv to not only this audience, but me as well.
Is that not in every elementary
That's
school
the
curriculum?
red, blue...
Except for
Yellow.
blue doesn't start with an O.
I realize you're... So is that in every elementary school?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I'm just behind.
And that's really hard to collect.
It's in the bonnet.
Oh, thank you, Lou.
So it's hard to collect all those different wavelengths. They all have a different energy, and it's hard to do that. If the sun was a laser, it was all at one frequency, it'd be really easy to collect all the sunlight.
Right.
That would be something for us.
And awesome.
Depending on how you look at that, right? And so one of the things nanomaterials can do, so we work on these kind of one-dimensional wire-like structures, and we can encode, we can put these different domains along the length that capture different parts of the solar spectrum. Okay, so whereas a conventional material might do really good at capturing kind of this one part of the solar spectrum, but nothing else, we can make materials that would be really good for capturing lots of slices of the solar spectrum and making your solar cell.
So that'll increase the efficiency of the solar cell. And does that mean around the corner is efficient solar cells for my house?
Yeah, so I think we already have pretty efficient solar cells. Okay. So you can go and buy a solar cell that's at the top of the line, made out of silicon and 24-25% efficient. I think there's a couple companies that play in some of these solid materials that's a bit higher, but that's the theoretical limit for one material is 31%. It's pretty good. If you have something that makes 25%, the theoretical limit is 31%. It's not bad. So as a scientist, actually, you have to ask the question, or someone who dabbles in the intersection of science and engineering, do I work on this? Right? If there's already materials in the market that can make or 80 to 85% of the theoretical limit into electricity, that's a kind of a small incremental improvement, even if we are successful. So we tend not to do the solar stuff in my lab, but that was just one example.
But you're trying to do big, bold things. Still working on the big, bold things?
Yeah, I mean, so some things we're working on now are controlling the transport of heat in materials.
Okay.
So we're about to, I think, undergo a revolution in the control of the transport of heat. So heat's involved in everything. Dissipate heat, use heat to drive propagation.
And might this have to do with these lovely thermal cells that can either take electricity and create heat or move heat, or do the opposite?
I think it's going to be the routing of heat. We're going to have a much better ability to direct it. And I think computer chips are a prime example where one of the biggest challenges right now is removing heat and keeping heat away from those sensitive elements.
But if you can direct heat,
you could
capture a lot more energy.
Okay. You could do that. You can also direct heat around sensitive elements and then expel it somewhere else without having to go through there. There are several options.
So if I were to summarize, we're taking sort of the math, chemistry, and physics, and there's a math in there.
I noticed.
That has been advancing over the last century or so. Now we have the ability to manipulate it at this small nanoscale level to do everything from make solar cells, photovoltaic cells more efficient by capturing all the different energy, and now maybe new applications would be moving heat around to keep my PC or laptop from frying itself on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, but I do want to make the point, and you cut me off whatever, that nano is not a specific field.
Right.
Everything from biology to electronics to structural materials is going to be influenced by our ability to control matter at these scales. And so it emerged kind of in the electronics world, but it's going to be everything. And so I urge people not to think of it as a separate technology, but as the basis of all future technology.
So lots of science and applied science in the form of engineering are manipulating things there. And then does that really just allow us to do things more precise, more exacting, more efficiently because we can manipulate it at a molecular level scale? A lot like biology.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. All right, let's have a